Captain Marcus Rydell had always believed that survival in the vast expanse of space was a matter of luck and skill. As the captain of the Nova Dawn, a small but agile starship, he'd seen more than his fair share of close calls. His crew, though small, was loyal, and they had become like family after Earth's fall. Their homeworld, once a thriving planet teeming with life and ambition, had been reduced to ashes years ago. The cataclysmic event that destroyed it left humanity scattered across the stars, fighting for survival. Marcus often thought of Earth in the quiet moments, staring at the distant stars and wondering what it would be like to return. But those moments were rare. Every day was a battle for survival. And each mission, whether trading, exploring, or scavenging, carried the weight of necessity. As much as Marcus wished for a peaceful life, he knew it was beyond his reach. The crew of the Nova Dawn had just completed a routine check on a derelict space station when their troubles began. What was supposed to be a simple salvage mission turned into a nightmare. Their sensors began picking up strange readings, unusual energy signatures coming from a nearby sector. It wasn't uncommon for remnants of lost alien technologies to send out erratic signals. But this was different. The signal was strong and deliberate, almost as if someone or something was calling them. Despite the risks, Marcus made the call to investigate. His crew was uneasy, but they trusted him. The stars were vast, and in the emptiness of space, the crew of the Nova Dawn had learned that curiosity often led to unexpected rewards. This time, however, their curiosity would lead them into the heart of something far more dangerous than they could imagine. As they approached the source of the signal, a massive alien ship appeared on their scanners. It was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen, sleek, dark, and impossibly large. The ship seemed to have no signs of life on board, yet its presence was suffocating. It hung in the darkness like a predator waiting for its prey. Marcus ordered a closer inspection, and the crew soon found themselves docked to the mysterious vessel. They entered cautiously, weapons at the ready. The ship's interior was alien and ancient, yet somehow pristine. It felt like walking into the belly of a forgotten god. Its walls etched with intricate symbols and glowing with soft, eerie light. The crew moved silently through the corridors, their every step echoing in the emptiness. Suddenly, their comm systems buzzed to life, and a voice came through, calm, yet undeniably powerful. It was a voice unlike anything Marcus had ever heard, deep, commanding, and filled with an ancient authority. The message was simple: human, prepare yourself. You are needed. The transmission cut off as quickly as it began, leaving Marcus and his crew in stunned silence. For a moment, they stood frozen, unsure of what to do. Was this a threat? A trap? The message left no clues, only a chilling sense of urgency. Marcus glanced around at his crew, their faces a mix of confusion and fear. They were out of their depth. Despite the unknown, Marcus knew one thing: they couldn't turn back now. The Nova Dawn was their home, and they'd come too far to abandon this mission without answers. He ordered his crew to prepare to investigate further, knowing that they had no idea what they were about to walk into. What came next defied all expectations. The crew was brought aboard a large, opulent chamber, and before them stood a towering figure. She was a woman, or at least, she appeared to be human, but with features that were so alien they could only belong to a being from another world. She was regal in stature, her presence commanding and unyielding. Her skin shimmered with a faint silver glow, and her eyes, burning like twin suns, seemed to peer into their very souls. "Human," she said, her voice reverberating through the room, deep and resonant. "I am Queen Savara Zhinar, Empress of the Savathian Empire. You have been summoned, and you will obey." The crew stood in awe, not knowing whether to bow or flee. But Marcus, ever the leader, stepped forward, trying to keep his calm. "Summoned?" he asked, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped his heart. "Why? And what do you want with us?" The Queen's gaze fixed on him. "You are no ordinary human, Captain Marcus Rydell. You are the last of your kind. And your presence here is not a mere coincidence. The fate of my daughter and my empire rests on your shoulders." Marcus's mind raced, but he kept his composure. "What do you mean? What do you want from me?" Savara's lips curled into a smile, though it was not one of kindness. "You will marry my daughter. She is to be wed, and you will be her consort. As the last of humanity, your bloodline is necessary for the future of my empire." The words hit Marcus like a slap to the face. Marry her daughter? This was no ordinary request, it was an order. His mind raced, trying to comprehend what he had just heard. What kind of madness was this? You want me to marry your daughter?" Marcus stammered. "Why? I don't even know who she is." The queen's expression softened, though it was still intimidating. "Her name is Princess Naira Jinar. She is the heir to the Savathian throne. But there is more at stake than you realize. The future of my empire, and the survival of your species, rests on this union. You will prepare yourself, human, and you will comply." For a moment, Marcus felt the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. He was caught in a situation beyond his understanding, with consequences far greater than anything he had ever faced before. This wasn't just about survival. It was about power, politics, and a galaxy that didn't know what to make of humanity's existence. The queen's voice broke through his thoughts. "You will come to know my daughter soon. Prepare yourself, Captain. The trials of the Savathian Empire await you." Before Marcus could respond, the room seemed to shift, and suddenly, he and his crew were surrounded by a group of heavily armed guards. The queen had spoken, and her word was law. There was no turning back now. As he was escorted out of the chamber, Marcus couldn't help but wonder how far he would be forced to go in order to survive this strange and perilous new world. The fate of humanity, it seemed, was about to take a turn he could never have predicted. The days following the Queen's shocking demand were a blur for Captain Marcus Rydell. After the initial meeting with Queen Savara, he had been escorted to a lavish guest chamber, far grander than anything he had ever seen on his starship. The room was filled with alien technology, some of which Marcus couldn't even begin to understand. He found himself sitting alone, staring out of a window that looked out into the vast emptiness of space. It felt surreal, almost like he had stepped into another world entirely. His mind raced with thoughts of the impossible situation he was in. A human, the last of his kind, being summoned to marry the daughter of an alien queen? He could barely wrap his mind around it. What kind of power did the Savathian Empire have? And why had the queen chosen him? Was this truly an opportunity for humanity to reassert itself? Or was he being used as a pawn in a much larger political game? In the days that followed, Marcus was given little time to reflect. The Queen's orders were clear. He would undergo the trial of sovereignty, a set of challenges meant to prove his worthiness. The concept of a trial was foreign to Marcus. Back on Earth, no one had to prove their worth by surviving deadly tests. But in the Savathian Empire, it seemed that power and honor were won through strength, intelligence, and cunning. On the morning of the trial, Marcus was escorted by a group of guards through the glittering halls of the palace. His eyes widened as they walked deeper into the royal complex, each corridor and room more magnificent than the last. It felt like he was in a living museum of an ancient, advanced civilization. The guards led him into a massive arena, its high walls adorned with intricate carvings. At the center of the arena stood a tall, imposing figure, General Vanor, a warrior whose reputation was known across the galaxy. Vanor's appearance was as intimidating as his name. Tall and muscular, with sharp features and a stern face, he looked like a living embodiment of war. He regarded Marcus with a mixture of respect and curiosity, as if unsure whether this human would survive what was to come. "You are Captain Marcus Rydell, the human who would become the consort of Princess Naira," Vanor said, his voice low and powerful. "You will need to prove your worth, not just to the Queen, but to the entire Empire. Your trials will begin now." Marcus stood tall, trying to mask his unease. "I don't understand. What kind of trials are these? I'm not a fighter. I don't belong here." Vanor chuckled, though there was little humor in it. "It doesn't matter whether you belong here or not. The trials are not about whether you can fight, they are about whether you have the spirit to survive, whether you have the heart of a warrior. Before Marcus could respond, the ground beneath his feet rumbled, and suddenly, the arena floor split open. A massive creature, alien, dark, and terrifying, rose from the depths. It was the size of a small building, its body covered in thick, spiked armor. Its eyes glowed with an unnatural red light as it bared its teeth in a snarl. The creature's roar echoed through the arena, sending a chill down Marcus's spine. "Your first trial begins now," Vanor said coldly, stepping back and watching with a watchful eye. "Survive this beast, and you may proceed." Marcus didn't have much time to think. The creature lunged forward with terrifying speed, its jaws snapping just inches from his face. He stumbled backward, barely dodging the attack. Adrenaline flooded his system, and he instinctively reached for his weapon, a standard-issue plasma rifle that had been handed to him upon entering the arena. The rifle hummed to life as Marcus took aim, firing a blast of energy at the creature's armored hide. The blast seemed to do nothing but anger the beast further. It turned toward him, its growls growing louder, as if mocking his attempts. Marcus could feel his heart pounding in his chest, every instinct telling him to run. But he couldn't run. He had to survive. For a brief moment, he remembered Earth's survivalists, people who thrived in the most extreme conditions. Their motto had always been simple: adapt or die. Marcus took a deep breath and tried to think. He wasn't a soldier, but he had been in dangerous situations before. The key was not to fight head-on but to outsmart the creature. With a quick movement, Marcus darted to the side, using the terrain to his advantage. He spotted a large column of stone nearby. The creature, enraged by his movement, charged directly at him, its massive claws scraping against the ground. At the last second, Marcus dove behind the column, narrowly avoiding the beast's attack. The creature slammed into the column, causing it to crack and break, creating a pile of rubble. In that moment, Marcus saw an opening. The creature was momentarily disoriented. He knew this was his chance. He aimed his rifle once more, this time aiming for the creature's exposed underbelly, where the armor was thinner. He fired, the plasma blast striking true. The creature let out a deafening roar, its body collapsing in a heap. For a few moments, there was silence. Then, the arena erupted in applause. Marcus stood, panting heavily, his body trembling with adrenaline. He had done it. He had survived. General Vanor walked toward him, his expression unreadable. "Impressive, human," he said. "You have passed your first trial." But this was just the beginning. Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow and nodded, though inside, he was shaking. The creature may have been defeated, but the hardest part was yet to come. Over the next few days, Marcus faced trial after trial. Some were physical, some mental, and some required both. He battled alien warriors in one-on-one combat, though he was often outmatched in strength and skill. Yet, he relied on his quick thinking and his ability to adapt to the changing situations. When he wasn't fighting, he had to solve intricate puzzles and navigate through deadly environments, all designed to test his intelligence and will to survive. Through it all, Marcus could feel the eyes of the royal court on him. They were watching closely, judging his every move. Among them, Princess Nyra observed from a distance, her expression cold and unreadable. It was clear that she, too, was part of this complex game. But what role did she play in all of this? Did she want Marcus to succeed? Or was she simply another obstacle to overcome? During one of the trials, Marcus found himself alone in a dark, narrow labyrinth. The walls closed in around him, and the air grew thin. He was trapped in a maze that seemed to shift with every step. The further he went, the more disoriented he became. But just as his hope began to waver, he heard a faint voice on the comm system. "Captain Rydell," the voice said, calm and reassuring. "You are not alone. You never were." Marcus paused. The voice was familiar. It was Lyra, a member of the Queen's inner circle. She had spoken to him earlier in the trial, and had offered cryptic advice. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice strained. "You have more allies than you realize," Lyra said, "and sometimes, survival depends on who you trust." With newfound determination, Marcus pressed forward, navigating the labyrinth with renewed focus. He could feel that he was no longer just fighting for his life, he was fighting for something larger. The trials were meant to break him, to show whether he had the resilience to endure. But Marcus was starting to realize that they were also testing his character, his ability to lead, and his potential to bring something to the Scifian Empire that no one else could. As the days passed, Marcus began to understand the true purpose of the trials. They were not just about survival, they were about proving his worth as a consort to the princess and as a potential leader in a galaxy that had long dismissed humanity as weak and insignificant. He had learned that strength alone was not enough. To survive in this strange and dangerous empire, he would need to rely on his mind, his instincts, and the allies he was slowly gathering along the way. The final trial was yet to come, and Marcus knew that it would be the greatest challenge of all. But for the first time since the Queen's unexpected summons, he felt a sense of purpose. He was no longer just a human, stranded and forgotten. He was Marcus Rydell, and he was ready to fight for his place in this vast, unpredictable universe. The final trial was unlike anything Marcus had experienced so far. After surviving the dangerous creatures, the physical combat, and the maze-like labyrinths, he had earned some respect in the eyes of the Scifian Empire. But this trial was different. It was no longer just about physical strength or intelligence. This trial was about trust, loyalty, and the dark politics of the Scifian court. General Von Knorr had led Marcus to a dark chamber deep within the royal palace. It was a place where the air was thick with tension, and the walls seemed to whisper ancient secrets. The room was circular, with no doors, just one central platform. At the center of the platform was a chair, designed with an eerie elegance, like something from an ancient ritual. Von Knorr stood beside Marcus, his face as hard as stone. "This trial," Von Knorr said, "is not about you alone. It's about your loyalty to the royal family. The Scifian Empire is built on alliances, on power, and on trust. In this room, you will have to make a choice, one that will affect not just you, but everyone around you." Marcus felt a chill run through him. He had faced physical challenges, fought deadly creatures, and outsmarted enemies. But this felt different. This was no mere trial of strength, it was a trial of character, of his very soul. Before Marcus could respond, the platform beneath them began to hum. The floor split open, revealing a holographic projection. The image was of Queen Savara herself, but her face was not one of authority. It was pale, her eyes wide with fear, and the message she conveyed was unlike anything Marcus had expected. "Marcus Rydell," the Queen's voice echoed, "the fate of the Scifian Empire is at stake. There are forces within my court who seek to destroy everything I have worked for. One of them is Lord Zarvok, a high-ranking noble who has been plotting to undermine my rule for years. He has gathered allies, and they will strike soon. I need you to make a choice. Will you stand by my side, or will you side with those who seek my downfall?" Icon. Marcus was stunned. He had come here to prove himself worthy of being Nyra's consort, not to get involved in court politics. But now, he realized that his presence in the Empire was more important than he had imagined. His survival, his actions, could very well determine the future of the Scifian throne. "How do I know who to trust?" Marcus asked, his voice unsure. He had already witnessed the deep power struggles in the palace, the games of manipulation that ran beneath the surface. How could he choose between the Queen, who had brought him here, and Lord Zarvok, a figure whose presence seemed to cast a shadow over everything? The Queen's image flickered, and her voice grew colder. "You will have to find out for yourself. The truth will be revealed in time. But you must act quickly. Lord Zarvok is dangerous. And he will stop at nothing to see me removed from the throne. He has already made his move, and I fear he has poisoned the minds of many in the court. Marcus stood still for a long moment, processing the information. There was too much at stake. He wasn't a diplomat or a politician. He was a soldier. A survivor. But here, in the heart of the Scivathian Empire, he was being asked to make a decision that could change everything. General Vanor, Marcus said, turning to the imposing warrior. What can you tell me about this Lord Zarvok? Vanor's eyes darkened. Zarvok is a cunning man. He has the loyalty of many powerful factions within the Empire. His ambition is limitless. He believes that he should rule. Not the Queen. He is ruthless, and he has many spies, many agents working in the shadows. You will never see him coming unless you know where to look. Marcus felt a weight settle on his chest. This wasn't just a matter of surviving trials. It was a matter of survival itself. His own, the Queen's, and the Empire's. And yet, it wasn't just the Empire that mattered to him. The more he had seen of Princess Nyra, the more he realized that his fate might be tied to hers. He didn't understand everything about the Scivathian Empire, but he knew one thing. Nyra was no ordinary princess. She was strong, intelligent, and fierce. If Zarvok's plot succeeded, the Empire would fall, and Nyra's future would be destroyed. I need to speak with her, Marcus said, his voice firm. Vanor nodded, his face unreadable. Very well, but know this. Nyra is caught in the middle of this struggle. Her loyalty is to her mother, the Queen. But Zarvok has made promises, and he knows how to manipulate. Be careful how you approach her. Not everything is as it seems. Marcus didn't need to be told twice. As soon as the trial ended, he made his way to the royal chambers. The guards at the entrance stepped aside as he approached. It was clear that his status had changed in the past few days. No longer just a human curiosity, Marcus had earned some respect in the eyes of the Scivathian court. The Queen had made sure of that. When he entered the room, Nyra was sitting at a grand table, reviewing documents. Her long silver hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her sharp, violet eyes scanned the papers before her with focused intensity. She looked up as he entered, and for a moment, their gazes locked. There was an unreadable expression on her face. A mixture of curiosity and something else, something that Marcus couldn't quite place. You wanted to see me? Nyra asked, her voice smooth and controlled. Marcus nodded. Yes. I need to know the truth. About your mother. And Lord Zarvok. Nyra's eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't seem surprised by the question. You've already learned more than most humans would in a lifetime, Captain Rydell. But what truth do you seek? The truth of the Empire? Of the Queen? Or of the man you will soon be bound to? The words stung, but Marcus didn't flinch. I want to know who I can trust. You told me the Queen summoned me for a reason. Now I see that it's not just about marriage. There's a bigger game being played here. And I need to know what side you're on. For a moment, Nyra remained silent, her gaze never leaving his. Then, slowly, she stood up, walking toward him with an air of grace and power. I'm on the side of the Empire, she said, her voice steady. And I will do whatever it takes to protect it. Marcus studied her carefully. Was that the truth? Or was she just playing the game? Zarvok had his spies everywhere. And even in this room, Marcus could feel the tension. He didn't know whom to trust, but he knew one thing for sure. If he was going to survive, he had to find out the truth before it was too late. As Marcus turned to leave, Nyra's voice stopped him. Be careful, Captain. The trial may be over, but the real war is just beginning. Marcus paused, sensing the weight of her words. He had already survived the trials of strength and intelligence. But now, the trial of loyalty had begun, and this time, the stakes were higher than ever before. The air in the palace felt heavier than ever, as Marcus stood at the edge of the royal courtyard, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. The calm night was deceiving beneath the peaceful silence. The tension of the Savathian Empire was reaching its breaking point. The trial he had endured was not just a test of his physical strength or intelligence, but of his resolve and his loyalty. The choice that now lay before him was more than a matter of survival, it was a matter of deciding the future of an entire empire. Marcus could still feel the weight of Nyra's words hanging in the air. The real war is just beginning. What did she mean by that? Was she speaking of Lord Zarvok's plans, or was there something deeper at play in the heart of the Savathian Empire? He wasn't sure, but he knew one thing for certain. He couldn't trust everything he saw, or even what he was told. The political intrigue and shifting alliances within the royal court were more complicated than he could have ever imagined. The path ahead was unclear. But one thing was certain: if he didn't act, everything he had fought for would be lost. He had come to the Savathian Empire to survive, to honor the last remnants of humanity. But now, it seemed that his role was something far larger. He wasn't just fighting to survive anymore. He was fighting for the future of an entire civilization, one that had long forgotten humanity. The days passed quickly as Marcus, with the help of his few trusted allies, began to unravel more about Lord Zarvok and his plans. Lyra, the Queen's secretive advisor, had become a source of invaluable information. She had warned him that Lord Zarvok had supporters within the royal family, and it wasn't just his ambitions for the throne that made him dangerous, it was his ability to manipulate the hearts and minds of those around him. Zarvok was a master of deceit, and Marcus could feel his presence lurking in every shadow. But the more Marcus learned about Zarvok, the more he realized that this wasn't just a fight for power, it was a fight for the very soul of the Savathian Empire. Zarvok had plans to strip away the old traditions and replace them with his own vision, one that would bring the empire to its knees. He was determined to overthrow Queen Savara, and in his mind, Nyra was nothing more than a pawn in his game. It was a bitter truth that Marcus had to accept: if Zarvok succeeded, the empire would be plunged into chaos. The consequences of that would ripple across the galaxy, and humanity would be caught in the middle, doomed to become a footnote in the history of the stars. Marcus wasn't the type to sit idly by while injustice unfolded. He had seen too much suffering, too much loss in his life. He had survived the destruction of Earth, and he would not let this new world fall into the same chaos. The time for hesitation was over. He had to act, and he had to act quickly. One evening, as Marcus stood with Lyra in a dimly lit corridor of the palace, he could feel the gravity of the situation settling upon him. The whispers of conspiracy had grown louder, and it was clear that the time for subtlety was past. Lord Zarvok's plot was nearing its endgame, and it wouldn't be long before he made his move. "Lyra," Marcus said, his voice low but steady, "I need to know everything. How do we stop Zarvok? How do we protect the Queen and the Princess?" Lyra's eyes flickered with uncertainty, but she nodded. "Zarvok has already gained the loyalty of several key factions in the court. The only way to stop him is to expose him for who he truly is, to show the Empire the treachery that lies behind his smiles and promises. But that won't be easy. He has spies everywhere, and his influence is far-reaching. Even some of the Queen's closest advisors have been swayed by his manipulation." Marcus clenched his fists. "Then we take him down from the inside." Lyra hesitated for a moment, her gaze flickering toward the shadows. "You must be careful, Marcus. Zarvok is dangerous, and he won't hesitate to strike if he feels threatened. The Queen's life and Nyra's are at risk. You will need allies, and you will need to move quickly. If Zarvok is allowed to take control of the Empire, there will be no stopping him." Marcus nodded, a fire igniting within him. He wasn't going to let Zarvok win. He would fight for the Queen, for Nyra, and for the future of humanity. He had come too far to back down now. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Marcus and Lyra worked in the shadows, gathering information, making alliances, and preparing for the inevitable confrontation with Zarvok. They knew it would come down to a final battle, a fight for control of the throne and the future of the Savathian Empire. Then, the news came. Lord Zarvok had made his move. He had gathered his supporters and was preparing to launch a coup against Queen Savara. Marcus had known this day would come, but the suddenness of it caught him off guard. Zarvok wasn't waiting for the right moment, he was seizing power now. While the Empire was still weak from the recent trials, the Queen, caught off guard, had sent Nyra away for her own safety. But it was clear that the fight for the throne was going to be bloody. "Lyra," Marcus said urgently, "we need to act now. We can't let Zarvok take control. If he does, it will be the end of everything." Lyra's face was grim as she nodded. "You're right. We don't have much time. We need to get to the Queen and warn her, but we also need to stop Zarvok's supporters before they can fully mobilize." Marcus felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. There was no more room for hesitation. He was in this fight, and he had to see it through. The palace was on high alert as the first wave of Zarvok's forces moved into position. Marcus, along with Lyra and a handful of trusted allies, moved through the corridors, navigating the chaos with practiced precision. The sounds of distant explosions and clashing weapons echoed through the palace as the two factions collided. Marcus didn't waste time. He knew what needed to be done. The Queen and Nyra were the keys to the Empire's survival, and he would protect them with his life if necessary. They found the Queen in her chambers, surrounded by her guards. The tension in the room was palpable as Marcus entered, his presence like a bolt of lightning cutting through the heavy air. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice unwavering. "Zarvok is moving to take control. We need to act now, before it's too late." Queen Savara stood, her regal composure not betraying the storm brewing within. "I know," she said, her voice cold, "but it is not enough to simply fight. We must expose Zarvok's betrayal to the people of the Empire. Only then will we have the support we need to take him down." Marcus nodded. "Then we'll make sure the truth gets out. Together." As they prepared for the final confrontation, Marcus couldn't help but reflect on how far he had come. He had started this journey as a lone survivor, a human lost in the vastness of space. But now, he was standing at the heart of an intergalactic empire, fighting for its future. In this moment, he understood something deep within himself. Survival was no longer enough. He had found something worth fighting for, a cause greater than himself. The battle raged on. But with each passing moment, Marcus knew that the end was drawing near. Zarvok's forces were crumbling as the truth of his treachery spread through the Empire. With the Queen's strength and Nyra's determination, they were reclaiming their throne, piece by piece. And as Marcus stood side by side with Nyra, no longer just a pawn in the game, but a partner in the fight, he knew that humanity had a place in the galaxy. No longer a forgotten relic, they were now a force to be reckoned with. The fight was over. The Empire was saved, and humanity had won its place in the stars.